Yes, back with another one. I am your noble host, Pharaoh Fresh, and I was checking out the analytics and I'm seeing good feedback and that I'm reaching my fellow Somali people. So I'm going to keep going on with the episodes, keep speaking my truth, and hopefully you can benefit from that. And in this episode, I just want to discuss the new codes of conduct for the new Somali standard. You know, people get whitewashed in the Western cultures and believe that we should follow their codes of conduct. But people are misled and terribly misinformed because those codes of conduct was never created to benefit us as individuals, as melanated beings. So let's be clear with that. With that being said, I've compiled the list of certain areas I hear certain Somali individuals talk about on YouTube. But if you notice, they never bring a solution. They just tend to waffle on about the problem and how it affects them. Rarely do they ever bring a solution, which then keeps us in this stagnant loop of confusion, self-hate, lack of knowledge. Hence, I didn't say education. I'm gonna get into that topic in another video. But I'm sure you guys get my gist. You know, I'm seeing my videos being shared on somalispot.com, somaliwave.com, you know, various different avenues. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys are spreading the word. So yeah, let's get into this. The codes of conduct for the new Somali standard. Number 1, if you ain't talking about building the community and making people aware of the new Somali standard, you're most likely an enemy to the community. If I was to explain this in a nutshell, it's those individuals that bash Somali community with them being Somali themselves. These type of individuals make you believe in themselves in a way that they are doing justice and they are spreading truth. But again, at the beginning of this podcast, I stated there are certain individuals that, you know, masquerade and waffle on about a problem, but never bring a solution. So let me repeat that again. Bear with me. If you ain't talking about building the community and making people aware of the new Somali standard, you're most likely an enemy to the community. So let's move on. I just want to identify those individuals because they are very prevalent in our community, especially in the Western world. And yeah, they believe they have some truth to what they're saying. And that may be the case, but if you look at it in a bird's eye view, they're not looking to help the community. They're just highlighting another problem. And with us being Somalis, we've got a number of problems in our hands. I'm not denying that. I'm just here to bring the solution. So let's move on. Number 2, the new Somali standard is men and women communicating maturely and effectively without the need for any ignorance. So let me unpack this. When you go on social media or on YouTube or, you know, any of the various social medias, whatever the name is, you see this type of gender war being instigated between men and women in the Somali community. Not only in the Somali community, but worldwide, you know, from the rise of feminism and, you know, the separation of the family unit. So I just feel like men and women have a lot to say. They're just not being heard in the right avenues, in the right outlets. Even in person, I've seen, you know, men and women just argue, yeah, but men do this, but women do this, that. They never listen to their counterpart maturely and effectively and respond maturely and effectively. It's almost like there's competition that's going on. So I just want to make that clear. The solution would be obviously to let's listen to each other, let's bond with each other, let's uplift each other, let's stop shaming each other for, not being married at a certain age. And yeah, overall, let's just listen to each other maturely, effectively, in a way that benefits the whole community. So let's move on. That was number 2. Number 3, the new Somali standard, being grateful to our fathers because they faced countless battles back home and still gave us a better life regardless. Some of them suffer from mental health issues which are still not diagnosed. Either way, they're appreciated. See, coming back to the whole bashing of the genders and the whole gender war that's been instigated by Western culture, not only in the Somali community but worldwide, we see the lack of appreciations for Somali fathers. Now, me being a Somali man, I grew up with my father. And my father was, I wouldn't say strict, but in a sense, he was strict. Not strict in a way where I couldn't do what I wanted to do, but strict in a way where it taught me self-discipline. It taught me leadership. It taught me how to be a man. And what Western culture promotes is the destruction of the family unit. We see this with, stats in the Western world. Let's not deny this. Now, I'm not saying certain fathers are not there. Certain fathers are not there for their families. I understand that. I grew up with certain friends that didn't grow up with their father. However, I encourage those brothers, reach out to your father. Find out why that relationship wasn't built. Try and understand his side, because like I mentioned in this third point, certain fathers have mental health issues which have yet to be diagnosed. You see? But Western culture promotes you to hate your father, whether it be through the movies, whether it be through the interviews, whether it be from celebrities. End of the day, your father's still your father and still deserves respect. And I've seen Somali brothers and sisters, bashing their father, disrespecting their father, not understanding their father, not even bothering to reach out to their father. I'm saying make that effort. Make that effort, because you could be the healing that he needs. And also, certain Somali sisters who may be divorced or single mothers. I'm not saying this is a large majority, but there's a small minority in the Western world that believe they have the power to not let the child see the father or build that connection, which then in turn puts insecurity and low self-esteem in the child, because that connection needs to be there in order for a child to be balanced. See, Western culture has promoted this ideology that single mothers can prevail on their own, but this is far from the case. You need both man and woman to balance a child, both male and female. So this whole propaganda of single mothers, if you believe you can prevail as a single mother, I wish you the best. But I'm just saying that household would be much stronger, much more stable with a father in the premises. And as we go on, I'll get into the men's side of things too. See, the new Somali standard is powerful. It's created for healing. It's created for truth. It's created for justice. Not just this waffling. So let's move on. Number 4. The new Somali standard is to be organized, disciplined, knowledgeable, self-reliant, militant men with power to make change. See, in the Somali community in the West, because this platform is dedicated to the Somalis in the West, the Western world. I'm going to read that again. The new Somali standard is to be organized, disciplined, knowledgeable, self-reliant, militant men with power to make change. In the West, majority of guys are stuck in their careers, or they're just drug dealers. There's no real leaders standing up for the community, speaking up for their community, and leading their community. You know, sure, we've got some older men from the previous and that previous generation, but soon they will perish. You know, every soul shall taste death. So we need the new leaders, self-disciplined, militant. You know, we need those leaders to stand up and ultimately protect the family unit, speak for the family unit, speak for the community. You know, in the next 10 years, who are those Somali men that are going to stand up and tell the younger generation, you know what you're doing doesn't make sense? I think you need to disregard that and move in this direction. You feel me? But ultimately, Western culture feminizes men. Effeminizes men, should I say. It makes them more feminine. You know, mommy's boys. And ultimately, it's this type of ideology and behavior that most Somali women complain about. They want the leaders to stand up, to speak for them, to lead the family unit. Otherwise, no change will go about. No change would occur. So take note of that, gentlemen. As we go on, we'll go more in depth. Number 5, the new Somali standard is food containing more minerals and vitamins to help preserve and rejuvenate a melanated body. Again, in the Western world, let's keep it true. Let's keep it all the way true. They're poisoning us with the food. When you walk down a street in the UK, how many chicken and chip shops do you see? It's crazy. And Somali parents believe giving your children chicken and chips after school is some sort of food. There's no minerals in there. There's nothing. Everything's fried. Everything is greasy. How does that rejuvenate the body? Doesn't it tax the body more than it rejuvenates it? You know? And it can't just be bris and hilib every day. Pasta and whatever every day. Sugar or whatever every day. We need to start, looking at a new recipe list that rejuvenates us, heals us, gives us the strength we need to continue in this demonic world, demonic Western world. So these type of conversations are needed, because if I'm not talking, who else is going to talk? Everyone else seems to be pushing self-hate or some sort of agenda to trample on the community. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to lift up brothers and sisters, men and women, to remind them. So let's move on. The news, this is number 5, I think it was. I think it's 6, so let me count. Seven, yeah, it's number 7. The new Somali standard is networking with business owners and entrepreneurs to raise money for whatever we choose to invest in or for a cause. Now, just to debunk that, when you look at back home, our parents always told us, yeah, we need to send money back home. We need to help back home. But guess what? We're in the Western world. We have the luxury of being in the Western world, meaning that all this overspending on stuff we don't need, 50K meheras and this and that, and is it all this material stuff? In the long term, it doesn't bring us joy. You feel me? People brag about Somali women are doing better in the West than Somali men as far as education and careers. But then, number one, when was it ever a competition between Somali men and Somali women ever in history, besides when we came to the West? I'll wait. Number two, those Somali sisters that are empowered as far as work and education, what are you doing to contribute to your own community? It's easy to secure a bag, the white man's bag, and spend it on yourself. But ultimately, you could be fired at any minute. Are you a business owner? Are you looking to invest in yourself the same way the white man invested in himself? Yes, the white man you work for. So it's time to invest in ourselves and network with other business owners, other high frequency Somalis. And we need to link up, start, investing together. If I'm a business owner and you're a business owner, surely we know two more business owners that could invest with us, whether it be a project back home or a project in the Western world. See? So the key here is we need to network with those that are owners, business owners, to raise money for our own causes in our own community. That's what you call taking charge. That's what you call leadership. That's what you call bosses. Just because you work in a job doesn't make you a boss. That's what Western world will have you believe. Oh yeah, I'm getting money, so I'm a boss. This and that. Nah, B. Bosses invest in themselves. So what are you doing to invest in yourself? I'm gonna tell you a story. I met one sister one time, and it's the first time we met. We were just in a public place, so we're just chopping it up. And I saw she was wearing Gucci, she was wearing Balenciaga, she was wearing whatever brand there is. And she kept talking about her work and this and that and that and that. The questions that I had in the back of my mind was, what are you doing to invest in yourself? Cool, I know you're on standby for your job, but you must be aware that you're on standby to be fired at any minute also. So what are you doing to invest in your own potential? And are you networking with other individuals that have harnessed that potential, that have cultivated that potential? See, when Pharaoh Fresh talks, it gets a bit sticky, because those that live in confusion get a sense of clairvoyance. But let's move on. Point number 8. If it's not aligned with the new Somali standard, I'm not a part of it. What I notice is that certain Somali groups would formulate and just, have a discussion. But these individuals have no power to make change. All they're doing is just talking. Which brings me back to my first point. Certain individuals, all they do is just waffle about problems. And these groups have been created to, I guess, remind you of the problem, to keep you stuck in a fear-based reality. So if it's not part of the new Somali standard, I'm not a part of it. I don't attach myself to no Somali groups. I am a Somali individual. Let's move on. Point number 9. The new Somali standard is looking out and protecting our Ayeyo, our Hoyo, our Habayaros, and our Walalos, our sisters. In the Western world, you find a lot of brothers that abuse sisters, take advantage, destroy their self-esteem. Now, me as one individual, I can say I'm guilty of this when I was in my younger years. But then as I grew up and I gained more knowledge, I knew I was in a destructive space. But then at the same time, in the Western world, let's not say our ayayas, because our ayayas come with a certain wisdom that cannot be altered in the Western world. Our ayayas are the last true queens standing. Our mothers can still get whitewashed in the Western culture. Our aunties can, our sisters can. So protecting them from the negative influences of not only ourselves as individuals, but the Western world too. I'm taking accountability. Not to say I've used and abused sisters in extreme measures, but maybe just a misunderstanding. It was going one way, but then it just didn't go that way. I never carry myself in a way where I have to lie to certain to individuals. I like to keep myself honest and authentic at all times. So protect. The new Somali standard is to protect our grandmothers, our mothers, our aunties, our sisters, and all our fellow female Somali sisters in the community. So let's move on. Number 9, the new Somali standard is being proud of one's ethnicity and stop referring to oneself as the term black. See, this topic, I might have to do a separate video. Maybe title the video, Are Somalis Black? Because when you go back to Africa, in any country in Africa, they don't refer to themselves as black. This is just a term the white man created and chose to label certain individuals of a certain hue. You see? So people that have forgotten their Somali identity refer to themselves as black. I'm a black British Somali. That makes no sense. I'm sorry. It may make sense on white man paper, but it don't make no sense to me. Let's keep it true. So in the previous episode, I also spoke about certain individuals being ashamed of being Somali because they've seen nothing but war-torn, a war-torn country, poverty. But these individuals, I promise you, have never visited back home and will ultimately be whitewashed by Western society because they refer to themselves as black. Your skin color is not black. What about you identifies with black? Your skin color is not black. Let's keep it true. Even a West African skin color is not black. There's no such thing as a black person on earth with the color black as their skin. So people get confused, see? They don't know the true origin of the term black and where it comes from. So if you're somebody that refers to yourself as black, I suggest you do your research, deep research, because ultimately black culture is controlled by white people. Yes, in the Western world. The music, the movies, the events, everything. See? So let's move on. Number 10, the new Somali standard. Number 10, the new Somali standard, looking up to no man, including pale-skinned Arabs, because we have the ability and power to stand our ground. I'm gonna target the Arab worshippers in this video because what I noticed, especially going to Speaker's Corner, is that many Somalis, they run towards the Arabs. We are here discussing amongst Somalis, but then there will be Somalis in the background running towards Arabs' conversation and discussions. Because ultimately, these people are Arab worshippers. They've mentally been enslaved by Arabs because they believe Arabs own Islam. Don't nobody own Islam. Islam is a way of life. It's a code of conduct. It doesn't have an identity. It's a code of conduct. It doesn't have an identity. It's a code of conduct. It doesn't have an identity. I have to repeat that multiple times for the Arab worshippers, because Arab worshippers are just, they have stagnant ideologies. They believe in this whole one ummah concept, which is, a farce. Let's keep it all the way true. So just looking up to no man. Somalis have never looked up to no man, whether it be a white man or an Arab or a black man. But in the Western world, people are trying to propagate this notion that we do. And sure, I'll say most of us do. Whether they pander to Arab culture, whether they pander to white culture, whether they pander to black culture. I won't even be surprised if there's Somalis in Asia that pander to Asian cultures or Australian cultures, or, whatever culture they're in at the time. But ultimately, what they forget is you're losing your identity in the process by looking up to someone else. You have the ability to stand up on your own too and speak your truth. You don't have to pander to anybody. You see me, I don't pander to anybody. People get very confused with that. Some people may say, I'm Muslim first before I'm Somali. I don't agree with that notion, because Islam and Muslim doesn't have an identity. It's just a code of conduct. You see? And no, Somalis are not Arabs. Stop this fake notion. Somalis are not Arabs. Let's move on. Number 11. I'm sure I was on number 11. I'm going to stop the numbers and just read it out. Next point. The new Somali standard, educating and liberating our minds with objective truth by any means necessary. This point needs to be debunked heavily, because a lot of Somalis can't face the truth, but ultimately the truth shall set you free. See, me as an individual, I can debate anyone, your favorite scholar, your favorite mufti, your favorite imam, your favorite librarian, whoever. I'm confident in the knowledge I've gained and the wisdom I've gained to debate any of these individuals based on objective truth. However, if I was to debate a fellow Somali from the West, I could be bringing all this research, all these facts, but they'll just deny me simply for the fact that they don't understand the concept of objective truth. See, objective truth does not waver. It doesn't turn left or right. Truth just is, and nobody can change that. Not your favorite white man, Arab man, or black man. It don't matter who. It's just universal. The truth is universal. It's like me telling you one day you'll die. Here's the research and the facts to prove that one day you'll die. But then the certain individual will be like, nah, I won't die. My physical body won't die, and this and that and that. You get it? It's just pointless discussions where, you're arguing with someone who's stupid. Anybody that doesn't understand the concept of objective truth is somebody who's stupid. And Western culture in general does not understand the concept of objective truth. That's why majority of the people are mentally deformed and stupid and ignorant and have their own prejudices. See, when the noble Pharaoh first speaks, it's powerful. Not everyone's stayed tuned up until this point, but it's in the ether. I'm doing it for myself more than anything else. So even if there's no one listening at this point, at least I'm documenting it and sending it out to the ether to know there's Somalis like me out there. So let's move on. The new Somali standard is being aware that we are Somalis that love and respect each other, regardless if one is from Somaliland or Somalia. Powerful. Very, very powerful. Because there's this, inner conflict between us Somalis. Are you from Somalia? Are you from Somaliland? And people come with their, prejudices based on what side they're from. I'm saying the new Somali standard is to love each other, respect each other, regardless if one is from Somaliland or Somalia. It don't matter. You're still Somali, right? You still have deen, you still have daqan. Okay, cool. I appreciate you. I respect you. It don't matter what qabil you are. It don't matter, what side of the fence you're from. Because ultimately, this is how Somalia was divided up because of, divide and conquer strategies. So what do you think is happening in the West right now? Do you think Somalis from each side of the Somalis are bonding, or are they being more separate? I'll let you ponder on that. Next point. The new Somali standard is leadership, both male and females. Speaking up for their community with their influence and never selling it out. Let me read that whole thing again, sorry. The new Somali standard is leadership, both male and females. Speaking up for their community with their influence and never selling out to white people or pale-skinned Arabs for clout, followers, or money. You see, there's a lot of Somali influencers nowadays. Let's keep it all the way true. But when you look at these influencers, who's really speaking up for the Somali community? Who's really looking to make change in the Somali community? Or are they looking at it from a cop-out perspective, a sellout perspective, where let me try and blend in with the white community or the black community or the Asian community to accept me as one of them because I have all this influence. Let me forget about my own community. You see it even in America with the black community. Once a certain individual of, melanated origin becomes successful, they leave their community. Tupac also spoke about this. They leave their community and they try and blend in with another community. Essentially, these are sellouts. So if you're a Somali that has influence, whether followers or money or whatever, what are you doing for your own community to help them benefit? You feel me? What are you doing to help your community with that influence? Because ultimately, if that influence is just for yourself, then it's gonna die down and you return to reality. Yes, reality, because social media is just a delusion. Sorry, should I say an illusion? Let's move on. The new Somali standard is love and respect for my fellow Somali siblings over disrespect and ignorance. Again, comes back to social media. And even in reality, once we're amongst each other and there's guys and girls together, somehow, some way, usually it's the norm for us to disrespect each other. We find entertainment in disrespecting each other. But when we go back home, that's not the case. People respect and love each other regardless. It's because in the West, we find entertainment in negativity. That's why people watch Love and Hip Hop and all these type of shows, is because it's drenched in negativity. It's meant to hold you back and be argumentative and irritable amongst your own. So in a sense, it is programming. And in social media, what do you see? You see a lot of Somali girls spilling self-hate, disgusting amounts of self-hate, should I say. You see brothers, targeting the females, saying this and that. What happened to the respect? What happened to the love? I'll let you download that for a second. That was a whole gigabyte. Next point. The new Somali standard is knowing that nobody on planet Earth, whether black, white, or Arab, will have your back and look out for you better than your own people. Powerful. Very powerful. See, when Somalis identify with black, dadkaa biraacaan, dadkaa bidaba socdaan. And in a sense, they lose their identity. Remember, Western culture is here to just whitewash your identity and call you whatever the locals call themselves. So people, dadkeena waxay daba socdaan dadka madow. The Somali people, certain Somali individuals will follow black culture, sell out their own people to black culture, and then assume why they get so much hate. It's because we Somalis have the innate ability to spot out a sellout. You know, if this was back in ancient times, you never know, you could have been killed, because a sellout is the equivalent to a spy. You see, so it's powerful. Like, you see this a lot. Even in the black community in America, they don't marry their own women; they marry white women. So all these Somali celebrities that believe they have some sort of influence, are you selling out your culture just to be accepted? Because there's the thing about race traders. I don't know if you've heard the concept of race traders. When someone trades their race, they're never accepted by the race they've sold out for. I'll just leave it as that. And to be honest, you're going to see more of these type of individuals, race traders, sellouts in the Somali community. And they will either identify with Arabs, white people, or black people, some even Asian. These sort of individuals will become, clear to you, clear to us. But let's move on. Next point. The new Somali standard is knowing there's multiple ways to earn a stream of income, not just being a drug dealer that destroys our own community. Alhamdulillah, I've never been a drug dealer. I've told myself from young I will never resort to that sort of hustle. I never needed to, because I've got a mind. I've got the mental capabilities to be more than just the local drug dealer. Brothers and sisters in the Western world get caught up in this lifestyle and believe they have the possibility to be rich and famous and make it from drugs, selling drugs. But that's never been the case. I'm sorry, but you're playing a losing game. You're playing a losing game. You need to write up a plan, unleash your self-discipline, and act on that plan. Because ultimately, drug dealing ain't gonna get you nowhere. And I really feel sorry for the sisters that believe they can change these type of individuals. Maybe you're talking to a certain brother that's in a drug life. How can you believe he can take you seriously if he don't take himself seriously in life? Like I said, the drug business is a losing business. Nobody's made it out. Nobody. These people believe they can make it out, but good luck to you. Ultimately, the drug business or the drug dealing roles were given to black people to destroy them and corrupt them and their communities. So I'm telling you, as individuals, as Somali individuals, you have the mental fortitude to be whatever you want to be in life in a productive and beneficial way that helps your community. And all you sisters that's dating these Somali drug dealers, like, I really wish you the best, because even you yourself are in a confusion and in a delusion. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is knowing nobody will accept me like my own community, and I'm being grateful for that. I'll read that again. The new Somali standard is knowing nobody will accept me like my own community and being grateful for that. Comes back to the sellouts. They believe these other races of people will accept them, but they don't accept you. Whether that be black people, whether that be white people, whether that be Asian people or Arab. These individuals have their own ethnicity and culture. They will never accept you and yours because you've sold out to join theirs. See, you sold us out to join them, but they still see you as a sellout. Especially those Somali sisters that run after black people or the black community or the white community. I see that. I see a black girl leading a Somali girl. Like, what? I'm sure this is meant to be a friendship. Why is she leading you? Like some sort of subservient role that you're playing. You'll see this more often. I won't be surprised, but I'm so grateful that once I'm among my people, they accept me. The sisters accept me. They see me for my handsomeness and my charismatic ways. I'm ultimately my whole autonomy. Should I say? I see the brothers with their head nods giving me respect because I'm one of them. I have their backs. I have my brothers and sisters' backs. What tribe? When I mean ultimately the tribe, that's my tribe. The Somali people are my tribe. Anything outside of that is not my tribe. So why would I go and seek validation from outside tribes? See, ultimately, those Somalis that run after black people, white people, and Arabs are just seeking validation to be accepted. That's it. From a lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, ultimately because they don't know who they are. Let's move on. Bear with me. Let me just unlock my phone. Phone's acting up, man. But definitely, I want to hear you guys' comments, you guys' views on this. Hit up the like. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to comment. Let's have a discussion. The solutions are here. This video is created for the solutions of the Somali community. Put it that way. Next point. The new Somali standard is owning a business that benefits my community. Makes sense. You know, you want to be making halal money in a way that benefits your children in the long run. You want to be able to leave a legacy behind. You don't leave no legacy behind working for another person, especially not for another person outside of your culture or race. You don't leave no legacy behind being an employee. So the new Somali standard is to leave a legacy. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is knowing religion doesn't fix everything. See, people get confused. Religion is a personal thing. It's a personal conduct of life. But you get a lot of haram police people that just point out and judge certain individuals. Maybe it's a sister that made a mistake. Maybe it's a brother that made a mistake. But then they shame these type of individuals based on religion, which is wrong. You have absolutely no power to judge. Absolutely no power to judge. And most of the time, these type of ideologies come from Arab worshipping or Arab worshippers. You know, they're not there to give you the solution. They're just there to show you the problem and shame you for the problem and make you feel guilty. Oh, you're going to hell. You done this and that. You know, these type of individuals, they get excited. They get highly excited, judging you. So religion is a personal thing. You have to look inwards, not outwards, inwardly, and seek forgiveness and seek guidance. But these individuals want you to run to them somehow, and they've somehow become a prophet to correct your ways. No, you don't work that way. Religion doesn't fix everything. Religion is a code of conduct. Some follow it, some don't. And everything in between. So make that of what you will, Arab worshippers. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is listening to understand my family and peers. See, with that whole sexual abuse situation with the Somali girls from around the world exposing certain individuals, what I got from them was the fact that they didn't have no one to speak to or someone that would give them a listening ear, someone that could be empathetic with them and have some sort of compassion with their situation. In our community right now, we need to be listening to each other, to listen, to understand, not just talking over the person that's got the issue. Or why did you do this and that? Da, 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 da. You know, just listen. Because when you listen, you communicate better. You can understand what the person's feeling more. You could come up with a solution and maybe guide them in a different way. But in the Somali community, what we tend to do is talk over each other and try to correct each other immediately, even for the smallest things. Now, when I raise my kids, I'll be there to listen and give them the compassion they seek and the empathetic ear they seek. Because ultimately, that's what will bring them the solution, whether internally or externally. So listening is a talent in the Somali community. Now, this next point, it was a kind of controversial point, but I'll break it down. So the new Somali standard is respecting our fellow African brothers and sisters. Now on social media, I see a lot of ignorance from the Somali community. They don't like to be affiliated with Black people for some reason. Or should I say other African people for some reason. And this comes from a place of ignorance. Hence why they'll start, dissing each other, Somalis versus other Africans. Or should I say East versus West? Somalis dissing West Africans dissing Somalis. I'm letting all other Africans know the new Somali standard is to respect our fellow African brothers and sisters. Anyone coming with some sort of racism or discrimination or something like that comes from a place of ignorance. They don't have knowledge of self. And also the Black community. What I don't like as a Somali is you telling me what my culture is. You don't have that power to tell me what my culture is or what my race is. It's a misconception to believe that Somalis came from Bantus or West Africans. That is not the case. Let's be clear. I find it very disrespectful when other Africans tell me what I am or about my culture when they've never even looked into my culture. They just assume. So the new Somali standard is to respect our fellow African brothers and sisters, regardless of what ethnic group they come from. Let's move on. Oh, and also with that point, when I did tweet that point, our brother said to me, "Oh no, I won't be respecting other African brothers and sisters." So I replied, "Don't be offended. You're below the new Somali standard. Consider studying respect." He was coming from the angle of ignorance and disrespect. So I said, simply replied, "Don't be offended. You're below the new Somali standard. Consider studying respect." He then went on to tell me, you've lost a follower. And I said to him, the new Somali standard is not being phased by fans turned haters. Because I didn't know who that individual was. I just know they were spewing out ignorance and disrespect towards other Africans for their own insecurities. I don't know why, but it's been corrected. He can unfollow me, I don't care. That's one of my own people. By me speaking truth and righteousness, I've lost one of my own people. But I know deep down that certain individual, like I said, is just living a life of disrespect. So I told him, don't be mad that you're living below the new Somali standard, because I'm setting it in stone. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is saving money to invest and not to stunt to be accepted by Black culture. See, when brothers and sisters get a bit of change, they're in their bag, maybe doing that yuto, it come true. What they tend to do is stunt holidays, this and that with material stuff. But what are they doing to really invest in themselves? It come back to that previous point I was making. They get a bit of change and they move like Black people. And Black people, when they do get a bit of money, they like to stunt in front of their own people. That's just the way it works. You don't see black people stunting in front of white people. And it's the same with the Somali community. Somalis, when they get a bit of change, they want to stunt for other Somalis or black people. They don't save that money to invest in themselves and for the long term to leave a legacy behind. See, they're content with whatever they're doing. They're content with life. So ultimately, save money to invest. Save money to invest and not to stunt. Next point. The new Somali standard is knowing not all Somalis are aligned for the community's benefit. Just like that previous brother that unfollowed me, he's an example of this. The sisters that are spewing self-hate on social media, they are part of this. The brothers that are on the corner selling drugs are part of this. The single mothers spewing self-hate and discrimination against Somali men on social media are part of this problem. Let me read that again. The new Somali standard is knowing not all Somalis are aligned for the community's benefit. See, these individuals that come from a place of hate and destruction and chaos and confusion, they don't have the skills. Let's be real. They don't have the skills, the leadership, the self-discipline to stand up for their community. So what they rather do is the crabs in the barrel mentality. They pull each other down. They pull each other down day in, day out. They pull each other down day in, day out. They pull each other down day in, day out. So these individuals, they're not there for the community's benefit. They're just leeching off the community because, there was just somehow born a Somali. But internally, they don't identify with being Somali. They either identify with Arab worshipping, white man worshipping, or black culture begs. You see? They don't like it when Noble Pharaoh Fresh talks, because I speak the truth. I shake up the whole ground. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is the elder generation listening to youth about any issue they may have with an open mind and giving the best advice without conflict. Comes back to that previous point about listening. Odayaasha yaslamaha marmar mikina degeystaan. Dee si fiican ma noo degeystaan. They took over us. They don't listen to, listen. They listen to avoid a problem. And then that then goes into conflict. Maybe arguments, disagreements, miscommunication somehow. So this is my advice to the elder generation, fathers, mothers, aunties, grandmothers, grandfathers. Listen to the youth wholeheartedly with an open mind and without conflict about any issue they may have. And Somali sisters, don't feel like you can't talk to your mothers, your aunties, your fathers. Same with you brothers. There's no shame in expressing emotion to your walid. You feel me? Let's move on. The new Somali standard is emotionally bonding with your family as a father. You see, Somali fathers, you guys definitely need to bond more with your children. I understand we live in a whole new world, a whole new country, whether you be from America, Canada, UK, Scandinavia, wherever. I know you've got trauma in your life. But be there for your family. Stand up strong for your family. Emotionally bond with your daughters. Emotionally build up your sons. Connect with your wife. And this whole notion of Somali men are not romantic. See, the people that spew that type of self-hate, they must also remember where the word romance comes from. And it comes from Roman antics. Somalis are not Romans. Majority of all African people are not Romans. So why should we be following Roman antics? We have our own way of being quote unquote romantic. Don't let the Western world brainwash you. But back to the point. Somali fathers, I'm gonna need you to stand up, emotionally connect, tap into that feminine side of yourselves to bond with your daughters and I guess train your boys to express their emotions in a healthy way and to bond with your wife. All areas of the family unit. You should be strong enough to emotionally bond with all aspects of the family unit. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is uplifting and protecting our women. You see, those Somali girls that are just out here doing madness, these individuals suffer from daddy issues, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. They weren't built up as women. That's why they're running around here like girls. They're doing all this madness because they don't have no guidance, no purpose, and live with a whole bunch of confusion. Hence why alcoholism is on the rise in the Somali community. So when I mean uplifting our sisters is letting them know they are great, letting them know they have potential, letting them know they should be protected, they should be guarded from the outside world. Because once a woman goes into the outside world, she would be corrupted in the Western world, especially if she's a Muslim woman. Let's keep it all the way true. Our mothers, our aunties, our grandmas, protecting and uplifting. Ain't no shame in that. So yeah, next point. The new Somali standard is to embody self-respect and self-love. Pretty much. You rarely see Somalis on social media. The ones that get coverage it's not really a tweet or a post about self-love. It's usually about self-hate. So the new Somali standard is to embody self-love and respect for oneself and one's identity. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is defending yourself physically and protecting yourself at all times. Meaning, we as Somalis need to start picking up MMA, self-defense, ways to protect ourselves on a physical level, brothers and sisters. There's just so many untrained individuals. For example, there was that story going around where that pregnant Somali woman and her husband parked up. The husband went to the shop, and when he came back, he saw a white man attacking his Somali wife, and ended up, killing her babies in her stomach because he kept on stomping on the pregnant woman. What was the Somali man doing then? Her husband. What was he doing then? And where was his self-defense skills? I've been training self-defense for about 2 years now. For my own safety in the Western world. I don't trust no police officer. I don't trust anybody. And ultimately, I want to be confident in myself and knowing I protect myself at all times. And my future family, my future wife and my future kids, I want to be able to have the strength and the techniques to protect them by the grace of the Most High. But many of you lot, men and women, you don't know how to protect yourselves. Even mentally, you don't know how to protect yourselves. Emotionally, you don't know how to protect yourself. So the new Somali standard is protecting yourself at all times. If you don't know how to physically defend yourself, go pick up a self-defense. Go learn MMA. There's too many untrained brothers out here acting like they're doing something. Acting like they're about this life. Let's keep it all the way true. The only way you're acting like that is because you're a hyena. It's because you got other boys running around with you. If you're solo, I'm solo. I've been around the world solo. And I'm willing to protect myself solo. So no, forget this hyena mentality. And sisters, you need to also learn self-defense. What if someone tries to sexually abuse you or rape you? What would you do then? You see, prevention is always the best cure. So let's move on. And also, with that being said, with self-defense, since I've been training it for 2 years, it helps you build up your awareness for hostility. I can almost feel and see when someone wants to come in a hostile manner towards me. Even from a distance, I protect my personal space. I protect my well-being before anything else. So let's move on. The new Somali standard is leaving behind assets for your seed and spouse. The new Somali standard is building generational wealth. How many Somalis in the world have built up generational wealth? There may be a minority. See, when we come into the Western world, our parents don't know that they brought us into this world to be slaves. And what do I mean by that? The school system doesn't teach us what we need to know to be successful in this world. It teaches us how to be employees. And what is an employee than a slave, a corporate slave? Generational wealth is the legacy you leave behind for your wife and kids, or your husband and kids. That's that money that's residual, that's passive, and that's most likely built up from your own business. You don't build generational wealth being an employee. I don't want to hear nothing about no pensions, retiring at 65 and whatnot. The only thing I want to hear about is the new Somali standard, those that are aligned with it. Let's move on. The new Somali standard is raising children at a high standard in a healthy and productive environment. Now, that's the last point, but I'm going to elaborate on that one. We need both men and women to raise the children. Any woman that's saying, I can do this by myself, is a liar and is living a delusion. We need healthy environments to raise these children. And we also need multiple family units to help raise one unit of children, because ultimately it takes a village to, it takes a village to raise a child. So healthy, productive family units that give each other a listening ear, that is focused on generational wealth, that is training in self-defense, both husband, wife, and children from a young age, is being proud of one's identity, teaching them Dakan, the culture of Somali Nemo, is loving and respecting oneself and the counterpart, their counterpart. Because ultimately, if I'm a Somali man, my reflection is in Somali women or my Somali woman. I don't even want to say my Somali woman. If I'm a Somali man, my reflection is a Somali woman. So the way I build her up is the way she should be building me up. But in the Western world, it's full of, narcissism, I guess, scandalous behavior, buffoonery, ignorance, confusion. So protect yourselves from these individuals if you're still single, and be aware that not everyone's aligned for the community's benefit. Some people masquerade as if they're Somali, but deep down, they've been indoctrinated by black culture, which is ultimately controlled by white people. Protect yourself at all times. Be proud of your Somali identity. Love yourself. Build up your fellow brothers and sisters. I need all the leaders to stand up, seeking their passion, working towards building up their business, investing in themselves, whether it be through reading books, studying, whatever. That's the new Somali standard. I am your noble host, Pharaoh Fresh. It's been a productive episode. Very productive episode. Leave your comments behind. Leave your likes, subscribe, share this with a fellow Somali brother or sister. And yeah, let's build. Ultimately, white culture ain't gonna have my back. Ultimately, black culture ain't gonna have my back. Ultimately, Arab culture ain't gonna have my back. The only culture I know that will have my back is the Somali culture, with me being a Somali man. Let's be clear. This goes the same for the sisters that have been whitewashed in society, that believe that if they align with black culture, somehow these people are for them. How are they for you if you guys don't even share the same religion or the same lifestyles? This is where the confusion comes in, see? Let's build. Let's get stronger. Let's uplift. I need all the leaders to stand up. Nobody will be a guest on my platform unless they're a leader. I just don't bring people just to talk for the sake of talking, unqualified, unexperienced individuals that may be suffering from either Arab worshipping or self-hate. It's powerful. Certain individuals get offended when Pharaoh Fresh speaks up, but I shall be silenced no longer. Those that appreciate me, I appreciate you and respect you too, because you know I'm speaking truth, objective truth. I'm gonna wrap this up now. I hope everyone's blessed. And yeah, take notes and share this. Share this to as much Somalis as you can, because I'm just one man right now. But the empire will be built one brick at a time. I promise you that. Everyone stay blessed, and I wish you all the best. I come to you in truth. I come to you in respect. I come to you in honor. This is the new Somali standard, the codes of conduct. And if someone's not following this code of conduct, then identify it. Let them know they're not carrying themselves at a high standard. Because ultimately, we didn't come to Western culture to carry ourselves in a lowly, status. We came to build, came to uplift, and ultimately to build back home also. But yeah, I'm gonna cut this off here. Hope you enjoyed this. Stay blessed. My bad. It's your boy Pharaoh Fresh in the premises.